This WiLLcast is with Sam Kaufman, who is the Fond du Lac County Executive. Becca, what do you think?
So one of the coolest parts of doing WiLLcast is I've learned a lot about things like city government. We spoke with Joe Moore. Obviously, that was quite a few episodes back. But now getting to meet Sam, it's just not someone you really think about, or you don't think about the impact they have on the community in which you live. So it was really a cool opportunity to learn more about county government and how that all operates and his role, but also just to meet him. He took over after a very, very long-standing county executive in Adam and Becca, who was really, really widely respected and loved. So he didn't necessarily step into the easiest position. He had really big shoes to fill, and really good energy about him, super positive guy, and just really, it's very obvious that he cares a lot about the Fond du Lac community.
He seems really genuine.
Yes.
A genuine guy that he's very much trying to help, and he has so much going on. He runs a law practice, and then he's county executive, and he's sits on some boards, and you kind of get this vibe that he's just doing things for the right reasons and really trying to help. And it's a huge responsibility. There's hundreds of people that report to him.
I don't think I realized how many
county employees there are. Yeah.
I mean, and when you start to think about it, it does make sense, but it's a huge responsibility, and it's not a role you take on lightly, that's for sure.
And to think about some of the other cities in the area that are under him, we work in Fond du Lac, so we think about Fond du Lac, but you have Waupun, and what are some of the other cities, the larger cities in the area?
Ripon.
So
that was one we talked about. I don't remember if that was during the WiLLcast or some conversation after. And then we started talking, like, I'm from the Campbellsport area, so Campbellsport, Eden, go a little further north, there's more. I mean, you get into North Fond du Lac, Van Dyne, east, west, either way. There's a lot there. A lot that I don't think we necessarily think about.
For sure. Yeah, big thanks to Sam for coming in and spending an hour with us and getting to know him. And I think everybody's really going to enjoy it. And, this WiLLcast is brought to you by NAFCO Light Poles. NAFCO is Wisconsin Lighting Lab's oldest brand, been around for a long time.
Almost 50 years.
Exactly. And when it comes to fabricated light pole components, light poles, brackets, arms, for commercial applications, industrial applications, even sports lighting applications, we've been doing a lot of interior sporting jobs where there's infrastructure that's hanging from the rafters and light brackets, and a lot of other factories seem to shy away from some of that custom fabrication, but we really embrace it and know that it's part of kind of the overall value package that we're putting together. So if you have a light pole, bracket, or arm project, even if you're not going with some Wisconsin Lighting Lab fixtures, but if you have a structural project we can help out with, go to willbrands.com. Otherwise, give us a call. But yeah, enjoy this WiLLcast with Sam Kaufman. So you were talking about the county team members in Fond du Lac. What's the relationship or the difference between county and the city?
Sure. Well, the county consists of basically all county government services itself. Department of Social Services, for example, community programs, the county highway department, and even the structure of the organization is different than the city. The city has a city council, and they have a city manager. County executive is my role, and I'm an elected official for 4-year terms. Then you have the county board, which is the legislative body. There's 25 county board supervisors, and they represent districts throughout the entire county.
So you report to the county board?
Well, I don't report to them, I guess, because we are separate and distinct. Think of it this way. Madison, Washington, you have 3 branches of government. It's the same exact system here, is that I represent the executive branch, the county board is the legislative branch, and then you have the judicial branch, which are 5 judges.
Okay.
For it. And so I go through it, and obviously I bring initiatives or things I want to do in the county. I bring them to the county board in a legislative form. They go through then and through a resolution, whether approve it or not approve it. If they approve something on their own that I don't like, I have the power to veto it also. Then it goes back to them for a 2/3 vote. And then, of course, you have the judiciary, where if we do something, any citizen can go before the court to ask the court to invalidate what we've done.
So if you had to bucket some of the things and the tasks that you're involved with, could be business related, could be real estate development or developing the county itself. What does a week look like? Where do you spend a lot of your time?
Meetings.
Meetings, yes.
It is. Well, I have 30 plus departments that I oversee.
Holy
We
cow.
have about 900 employees, and so what I
Are
have
you
to
serious?
do is oh yeah, it's a big county government,
Yeah.
and so what I have to do, of course, is try and, without micromanaging, monitor the departments, find out what's going on. I'll have department meetings. I'll go through, meet with my department heads. And the structure of our department heads are different, is that by statute, the county department heads are actually selected by and appointed by the county executive, and they are confirmed then by the county board. However, all department heads serve at the pleasure of the county executive. So at any time, a county executive who comes into office has the ability to terminate every department head if they want to, or replace some with different people itself. And at any point, I can remove anybody and then reappoint somebody and ask the county board to confirm that appointment.
And is this a pretty common structure both within Wisconsin and within the United States?
It is.
This kind of stamped out county to county across the country?
It is. I think in general, county governments model themselves after the same things as the state and the federal government with 3 branches of government itself. The cities are a little different because that's where instead of an elected mayor, they may have a city manager. Now, the only difference is that there are some counties, though, that have county administrators. Actually, there are only 12 county executives in Wisconsin. I'm one of them for it. The rest of the counties have county administrators. And so what happens is the county board hires then this person to be the county administrator. Then there's usually an executive committee from the county board that the county administrator then will report to. And the county board has the ability to terminate then the county administrator. Whereas myself, the county board cannot terminate a county executive position.
Yeah, similar to executive, judicial, and legislative branches.
Exactly.
They're kind of almost a team of rivals a little bit, that checks and balances, like you said.
Yeah, checks and balances is a great way to do it.
Yep.
Yes.
So, within Fond du Lac County, Fond du Lac is the largest city?
Yes, the city of Fond du Lac is.
Okay. And it's kind of an interesting mix of small towns and, Fond du Lac that's a little bit larger. What does that dynamic look like where you have, say, Eden, Wisconsin in the same county as Fond du Lac, and who are the people reporting back to you at the county level?
Sure. Well, we go through, and obviously, as I said, department heads, their services go county-wide. And they may go through, such as the highway department. Our county highway commissioner is Tom Yankee, who does a wonderful job. He may have to coordinate with villages and townships in regard to highway projects. And each municipality has their own governing body. So you've got town boards, village boards, and so forth. For me, as county executive, my job is to engage with all of those municipalities, find ways that I can partner with them to make sure that what they are doing there are things that are improving the lives of their residents. And then we need to go through as a county and help them achieve that. One of the good examples, I think, is economic development. We go through, and there may be municipalities that maybe a business is looking to come into that municipality. Well, if it's a smaller municipality, it would be a great plus for them to have that there, that economic base for employment purposes, taxation, and that. And so we will look to partner with the municipality, say an example would be low interest loans, something to entice them to come into that community then. And it's a partnership then we have with that municipality. The hardest part for me at times is trying to stay in communication with all of them, because there's a lot. We have a Fond du Lac County Town Association, which is very helpful. They meet every 3 months. I will usually go there and give a report, kind of a state of the county addressed to them, let them know what issues are coming up, what's going on, and then they will go through and have a chance to converse with me, ask questions, anything that I can maybe assist them with, and that's our time to get together and do that. The villages and the cities, what I try and do is to go and make my rounds to when they have their regular meetings, to present myself to their governing body, just to say, hey, I'm here. This is what's going on in the county. Let's talk. Anything I can help you out with. I think that communication is really a responsibility of the county executive to make sure they are staying on top of what is going on countywide.
Your phone must be pretty busy.
It is. That it is.
Between 900 team members and then all the local cities.
I'm still trying to get used to the early morning meetings. I'm not used to. A lot of them like to meet for whatever reason.
A lot of farmers too, so
they do.
Yeah, they
do.
Lots of early mornings.
Will doesn't do early morning meetings.
Not everybody.
No, I need my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And that. So
I'm grateful for that, by the way.
Yeah, and it's different because my wife and I, what we usually do, that's our time. We when my son goes to school, we usually sit for a while, have coffee together, catch up, things that need to go on. And at times up, I got to go to a 7 o'clock meeting. Well, I'm not getting up that early for you.
So yeah, I'm curious. Before we put in our building expansion, we were looking at a few different sites in a few different areas. So one of the option was expanding off the existing building, which we ended up doing. We talked about one of the business parks south of town. We looked at a business park up in North Fond du Lac. We threw out the idea of rural Fond du Lac County. I'm from Eden, Wisconsin. We've got a lot of people here from Eden, and you start to look around, and the further you get away from Fond du Lac, the city, it turns into farming very, very quickly.
Yep.
So when you look at some of the machine shops and some of the other small manufacturing companies that have built there, is that because they, more or less they've always lived there, or do you see other outside companies wanting to get into some of the more rural areas, whether it's easier and more cost effective to build there, or would somebody that wants to move into the area, you said they would reach out to you, or what could have been our options as we went through that process?
Sure. One of the problems is you get a large corporation, they want to move into, say, Fond du Lac.
Yes.
The problem is space. You have to be able to find the right space for whatever they're trying to do as far as what's the base of their business, industrial, manufacturer, office space, and that.
Yep.
And so that will determine what area they want to be in. We do have companies that would prefer a more rural setting because of the space. Their plans might include a larger parking lot, for example, and we just can't do that here in the city.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of places that are available, lots, industrial park lots, and at times it just doesn't meet their floor plan as far as what they want to do. So they'll head out into the rural areas, and that can be problematic because a lot of, like you talked about, the rural areas are agricultural.
Yes.
And because of that, farmers don't want to give up their land. And a lot of the towns, because of farm preservation, don't want to see farmland given up for commercial purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the challenge we face at times, and there's only so much space available in our cities or villages for it. That makes it a little difficult for us.
So a lot of the smaller manufacturing business, they're likely multi-generational family machine shops and things that have always been there. But when it comes to a larger company wanting to move into a rural area, there's all the challenges that you outlined.
It is. And we see a lot of the family-run businesses going from generation to generation. Well, look at Silica.
Yeah.
A good example, with them over in Silica, Wisconsin, and now they're here in Fond du Lac too. Great organization. They do an amazing job. But it gets into that if they want to expand, how much space is there here in the city versus just going back out to the rural areas.
Yep. So Sam, what made you want to get into this line of work? What's your background?
Well, I'm originally from Chicago.
Okay.
And my family moved here to Wisconsin. We had a place in Adams, Wisconsin, over by Castle Rock Lake.
So we did We did a few baseball fields over in.
Okay.
Actually, it's right here.
Oh yeah. And so I was there. I went to UW Superior for my undergrad.
Oh, nice.
And it was funny because I was supposed to go to Madison, and I went with a friend to Superior just to check out the area. Well, there's a blizzard going on up there.
Yeah, that's pretty far north.
It is, but I tell you, I fell in love with the area. I'm an outdoors person. It is an incredible, beautiful place. Patterson State Park holds the state's largest waterfall up there. And so he went to Madison, I went to Superior. And I loved it up there. And I ended up coming back for a while, and then I actually went to law school. So I'm an attorney also at my JD and that.
Where'd you go to school?
Hamlin University.
Okay.
Yeah, for it. And I came to Wisconsin. I passed on living in a large city in St. Paul. I was offered a job there because growing up in Chicago and then moving to Wisconsin, I started to realize there's nothing that beats a small town living. I mean, it really is quite different. Just the connections you get with people, the friends you develop, the things you can do. It really is a better way to raise your family as far as I am concerned compared to Chicago.
What part of Chicago did you
Wrigley
grow?
Field area.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
So right in the middle of the city.
Oh, yeah, right in the city itself. So we used to laugh at the people who would say, I'm from Chicago, and then you find out they're from the suburbs.
So are you still a Cubs fan?
Well, I tell you, this is the torture.
Those are fighting words.
It is. Yeah, I grew up with the Cubs, but this is the thing. I'm a diehard Brewers fan because for Cubs fans, we do not like the White Sox. We never did. And so when the Brewers were in the American League, we rooted for the Brewers at all times, with it. And then when they came to the National League, it was torture with it. So it's hard. So when I see the Brewers playing, I'm rooting for them both. But the Brewers themselves, I always end up going to their games. I haven't been to a Cubs game in a long time, but I've just fell in love over there at Miller Park with the Brewers team, and my kids have always gone there.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun down there.
Well, I went to a Cubs game for the first time, I think last year. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Wrigley Field's a great game.
Really cool.
Yeah, Wrigley Field has a lot of history. It's a beautiful place in that. And I just grew up there, but it was odd because my father was originally from the South Side, so he was a White Sox fan.
Oh, really?
And I remember growing up telling him, you're in the wrong. You're not my dad. You've got to be from a different place with it. But no, I came up and actually met my wife in Montello.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I passed up on a large firm, came to a small firm over in the Montello area. I happened to walk into a restaurant one day, open up a door, and she was standing in front of me. And
you knew she was the one.
She was the one.
Really?
So we're married
That's
27 years now, and we have 4 children. One we adopted last year.
Oh, good for you guys.
We were a foster home, and we adopted him. And as an attorney, I kind of follow politics a little bit here and there before. And an opportunity came to go on the county board in Fond du Lac County, and I had some individuals pushing me to do that. And so I took a look at it, thought this is something I think I can make a difference with. Elected my first term, that was 7 years ago in that, and I was reelected a few more times after that. And during that time, after my first term, I was honored to become elected as the first vice chair of the county board. I served in that until this year, unfortunately, due to the untimely passing of Adam and Becca, our county executive. And we went on through in my last election this year in April when I was reelected to the county board. They went on through, and I was honored because I was on the ballot for county executive for it. And even with the election only being basically about a month and a half away, the county board still unanimously elected me county board chairman. And so it was a great honor for me to serve in that capacity. And then I had won the general election on June 7th, or special election, I should say, June 7th. Took office 2 days later as county executive, and here I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hear a lot of good things.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I think Alan was a friend of mine. I served as his treasurer in his last election, and that nothing but respect. He was a mentor to me, and just watching some of the things that went on. And coming in now with the change of leadership now, there's still that element of Alan in the room. And I've always tried to keep that in my mind of saying, what would Alan do here?
Yep.
And that as a guide. But we have a great staff. I kept all my department heads, the ones that were there when Alan came, because I great deal of respect for them with it. One of my right hands is Erin Jarrett. She's my director of administration. She does an amazing job, just as all the other department heads do. But I rely on Erin a lot for day-to-day operations. But
And do you still practice law?
I do. I have a part-time practice.
Okay.
I'm in the county executive office Monday through Friday, usually from 8:30 to about 5 o'clock. And then usually I have staff down who takes care of the other stuff at my other office during the day. I will stop in usually in the evening, sign papers, pick things up, and then weekends I'll work on things.
What type of law do you practice?
I'm a trial lawyer. So
okay.
I do, primarily I had done insurance defense work.
Okay.
And that I represent a lot of different governmental bodies. So if you sue a city, a village, a county, I typically come in and be hired by the insurance company to defend them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I still do that type of work. Just that's cut down in my practice down to half right now.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's worked out well.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting. Law and government overlap, and just understanding the framework on how everything is set up.
Sure.
There's a lot of common connections there.
There really is in that. But I joke because coming from Chicago, we're a blue collar family.
Yeah.
My father was a union carpenter and that, and they always used to say to me, after I became a lawyer, the joke always was, you ever want to solve a problem, don't get the lawyers involved. It seemed to complicate it.
Yeah. It can happen.
Yeah.
It definitely happens. But so you were saying that you moved up from Chicago, you're in Superior, other places in Wisconsin. One of the things we try not to get too involved with politics here at Wisconsin Lighting Lab, but over the last couple of years, we've made some contacts and getting to know people in our community or even at the state level. One of the things that I find interesting is how behind closed doors, people often get along, or at least on the same page, a lot more than when they are in public. And how I'm just what are some of the things where people from both sides of the political spectrum, like how what are ways where people can, really work together more to get things accomplished as opposed to always butting heads?
Yeah. Well, the nice part about being county executive in the county board, it's nonpartisan.
Yes.
They're not elected partisan positions. But in my position, I still have to deal then with, on the state level, for example, or our regular officials. Some are partisan, Republican, Democrats. And, maybe I'm old school, but I come from the day where there should be a team effort. Both sides of the house should be reaching together because it really should get back to what is best for our residents and our citizens of the state of Wisconsin. And watching the ugliness of politics on both sides of the aisle.
For sure.
And that has been very disappointing to me. And it's an embarrassment at times with regard to it. I watch the stalemate that takes place right now, even in Madison or in Washington. And as a county executive, knowing, for example, that there are things they could be doing that could help us, for example, with our budget. Increasing our revenue stream on different things. So we face a very tight budget due to the lack of resources from the state. And it's been very difficult to watch. Like, we're sitting on a $5 billion surplus right now in Madison, and it's been frustrating for county executives because we keep saying, you need to do something here. Stop playing politics with it. And it's just that it's the nature of the beast right now is that no one wants to allow the other to get the better of it. And that's what frustrates me with it. And it's just something that we need to change that mentality on. I'm hopeful that with this next election here that just took place with the governor and our legislators, the Republicans control now the Senate and the Assembly board, and Evers being the governor, I'm hoping they can find common ground. I understand there's core issues that they can't compromise on. I get that. But there are some issues that they can. And they just need to now finally step up to the plate. And I think there is an attempt now to do that. But how long it lasts, I don't know. But it mirrors, of course, what we see down up in Washington, too.
And that's been my limited observation is when it comes to, the economy and when it comes to a lot of the, the core issues that people should be on the same page. It seems as though people are until you get, the media involved or people are out actually, it's almost like they're tasked with really bashing the other side.
It is, and what's unfortunate about it is that the distrust people have from the media now. And that it used to be where people relied on the media
for sure,
and they felt that the information out there was actually fair and balanced. And now it's to many people it's become partisan, and there's just no respect for the media now as a reliable source of information.
But we still get to have podcasts.
That's right.
So this is the future of the media. So I guess the political topic aside, what's going on with the Fond du Lac business community? I know there's a lot of exciting things, developments, manufacturing is making a big comeback, both in the state and really there's a lot of onshoring happening with various companies. What are you seeing in the business world here?
Yeah. What I'm seeing is corporations who are typically out of the country trying to come now back into the country.
Exactly.
And I think it's a cost savings issue for them, is that when they're looking at their raw materials, for example.
Supply chain control.
Absolutely. In that there's a cost savings to them and time with regard to producing the product here in the United States. And that's the way it should be with it. I think that's the better way for us to be doing it. And I think that's what we're seeing now. We have a lot of companies that are trying to develop and expand here in the U.S., in our state too, and even in our community with it. The problem we run into is the labor shortage. That's really the biggest issue we face. It's hard for me to go through and sell the county to a corporation to come here and expand if there's a labor force for them to hire. And many of our companies right now are facing that labor shortage, and the county is not excluded from that. I have a lot of openings right now in county government that I can't fill. And it's because we compete, and we try not to, with the private sector, but the reality is for county government, we can't pay what the private sector does. All we can do is try and offer additional benefits to offset the wage difference with it. But for private companies, no different. They are suffering right now to getting people there. And you know what it is that what I see happening right now is this younger generation is different in the idea that it used to be I want to work in this community because this is where my family is. This is where the generations are. Now this younger generation is more of I'm going to go where the money is. If it means out of state, out of the area, they're fine with doing that. And so it's a whole different era. We have a large amount of people in Fond du Lac County, oddly enough, that move to Texas and that. But what we tend to find too is when they get older, they come back to their roots then. And
I see that happening, a lot with people that are, my age. So,
Sure.
upper 30s where, and, lived in a larger city, as cost of living continues to increase, now, looking at more rural areas again. So I think we talk to people all the time that are moving back. So it's interesting to hear you say people are moving out. But I think, like you said, there is at some point, if you can have a house that's, twice as big and it's a third of the cost and you're trying to raise a family, that's a pretty strong argument.
It is. And one of the things that's happening is that it's estimated that by 2035 in Fond du Lac County, we'll have more people over 65 than will be under 18. And that's a scary thought to me because it's going to affect our labor issue later, even then. What I've been trying to do now as county executive is work together with Envision, for example, which does a fantastic job.
Yeah, they're great.
Yep, with that Sadie does an amazing job over there. And we're trying to make sure we're partnering with them, not only to increase the economic activity to get businesses to come, but I need to also now figure out a way of how do we keep the younger generation here from leaving? What is it going to take? Their mentality is, they want to make money, but they're also thinking, we need something to do here.
Mm-hmm.
We need activities. We need things to do. So we've been trying to figure out ways to partner with Envision, downtown promotions in Fond du Lac, for example, or areas like Waupun, Ripon, Campbellsport. How can we do that? Can we create activities for them? Can we create new trails, outdoor activities for them? Because that is a big factor for a lot of them, including myself, is having outdoor activities. We have a beautiful park system here in the county, and Hobbs Woods is, of course, our gem. We have a lot of parks such as Shaganappy. A lot of people don't even know that exists. It's the old Boy Scout Lodge area that we are now putting money into to develop for more hiking trails, an outdoor area that they can have performances, just to give younger generations the idea that, hey, there are things to do. We're looking to renovate our fairgrounds. We're talking about renovating the stage that's out there. We need to do renovations to the buildings, for example, because we need to preserve that, for them. Golf even, a recreational sport, Rolling Meadows. We're now working on ways to improve that there so that golf course will be able to be around still for the next 5-10 years or longer with it. So just those ideas we need to do to keep them here
For sure.
and that from leaving our county.
Yeah, I don't think people really fully realize how concerning some of the demographic issues are, even in manufacturing. It's one of those things that can just, it's like it kind of happens in the background unless you're on a shop floor or you're touring factories. You don't realize how there's not a lot of younger people getting into that. I mean, you hear all the time in the in the trades or in building, for every 5 people retiring, there's only 2 people replacing them.
Yes.
So now the system's already stressed with the last 2 years. People can't find people, and there's still, there's a good amount of, people between, 50 and 65 that are still, in factories building things. But it's just like, what happens over the next 20 years. And again, we tour places all the time. We're fortunate enough to, work with a lot of great, part vendors here in southeastern Wisconsin. And it's always interesting when people come tour us, our operation. The first thing they say is, man, you guys have a lot of younger people working here. And that's what we've, part of our mission as well is to try and do our small part, to really get people excited to get into manufacturing. Because that's younger, the next generation wants to be excited when they come to work. And that's really a huge part of it. And, whether you're on the shop floor or in an engineering position or in sales and marketing, I think it's just raising the standards on, what can a manufacturer provide people.
Right.
And, hopefully here locally in Fond du Lac, as I said, we can do our small part to get the next generation excited about it because it's so important.
It is. And when I tour different manufacturing places around, it's always interesting to me the number of older individuals I see compared to younger.
Yeah.
And it's really just a matter of 3 to 5 years. There's going to be an exodus of people retiring.
Exactly what I was trying to,
Yeah, and that's what we're facing the problem with. And the odd part is that even though there's an exodus, due to economic conditions, we're seeing older individuals who were retired having to come back in the workplace for even part-time jobs and that. And they'll take them.
And the exodus is not, I think historically it's been more of a linear progression. It gets to a point where it's going to drop.
Absolutely.
Significantly. The replacement rate is not keeping up. I think some of the positive news around that is, We work with Marine Park quite a bit. I had a meeting today with them, and one of the things that we've done here at Wisconsin Lighting Lab is we put an emphasis on productivity on the manufacturing side, and that doesn't mean go work 3 times as hard. Is focus on your process, lean process flow, lean manufacturing. A lot of the tools that small and medium-sized businesses don't always think about. Larger companies have teams that can devote to some of this stuff, but we are getting out 30-40% more this year with the same size staff on the floor. So there's a lot of things that businesses can do. Moraine Park said their Six Sigma programs and their productivity and programs and their green belt certifications have never been busier, and I think that is because of labor shortages forcing people to get more creative on the productivity side. So there are tools in place. It's just a matter of partnering with people like Moraine Park and really getting the word out.
Yeah, and we're trying to do that too. With Moraine Park, I know that even, for example, Fond du Lac High School has an ACES program. It's called. If you ever have a chance to talk to them, great opportunity. It's a trades program, and I toured it yesterday actually with the Assembly-elect Jerry O'Connor. And Mark Heschel is the school board president, and Dr. Flagg from the school district. And it's an amazing program that teaches these high school students the various trades, and they usually get them placed then in various manufacturing jobs in that around the county, which is a great way to retain them also. But that's kind of where we're heading. I think you're seeing too right now the downturn of those seeking a 4-year degree. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing now too is that more people are interested in either learning on the job or going to a tech school and get their degree. And that's kind of the new wave of things are going. People are starting to think, why should I do 4 years when I can do 2 years
Absolutely.
And make as much money with it? And so the concern is, as the UW system starts to decrease in enrollment, I'm concerned about that. And I think that, and I've told this to a few different individuals with the system, it's time for the Board of Regents to start realizing they have to revamp the UW system. And they have to bring it more to the times of what we're facing, because they're not doing that. Mm-hmm. And it's a failure on their part with it. And the tech schools have been just expanding more and more. The $55 million referendum that just passed for Moraine Park. People passed that because they realized the need for tech schools. And now with that, we're having a new robotics center that's going to be built in Fond du Lac.
That's awesome.
And with it, which we're, as a county, are putting $500,000 towards, because we believe in that investment in our community. But the UW system has to step up. We have a campus here, for example, that the county owns. A lot of people don't realize that we actually own the county or the facilities out there, with it. And are we going to get to a point where, with decrease in enrollment, they're going to close that campus down? My hope is not, but this is the time they have to start rethinking the UW system and how we adapt it to our times.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we're big proponents of tech school as well. But I actually think there's a lot of opportunity in the high schools. I feel like some of the high school is the new tech school, and you think of how great kids are on computers and with technology, and I look at some of our engineering programs and our engineers here and engineers that we work with. There's so many people that are learning this stuff on their own. You can go online, you can take you can watch YouTube videos on how to use SolidWorks. You can watch YouTube videos on how to do a lot of these things. We met with the incubator group over at North Fond du Lac, and you had 25 kids through here, and those kids are super impressive. And it's like you combine that thirst with some of the tools that technology provides, and you get them associated with the right people in the area. I think you can really accelerate the rate at which people can learn, especially because they don't have to learn the technology side of things. Right. They can hit the ground running. So, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of good stuff happening in the area at the high school level, the tech school level, and I've even noticed, talking to people recently that used to be, hardcore 4-year degree, master's degree, as much education, formal education as possible. There's a shift happening where people are starting to realize that should be one option kids have, not the only option that gets pushed. So
yeah, I agree.
I think it is shifting. It seems bipartisan as well, where people just realize that there's a reality here, and between debt and between what's needed in the workforce, a change is going to have to get made.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think when it comes to the trades program, for example, Senator Dan Fine from our area here, big supporter of the tech schools and trades industry, and he is at least ahead of the curve and understands that issue. And
Yep.
and like I said, the high schools, what I like about it is that a lot of high school students before were just dropping out of school, no
Yep.
direction in their life. This trades program now, like ACES, really gives them now a focus, something they can achieve and know this is where I can head now, some direction in my life. And you're right, with the 4-year, giving them an alternative.
Yep.
The mentality always was go to college, go to college, go to college. And that's just not it anymore
No.
with it. And I think that's where that push resulted in the decrease because people are saying, I don't want to go that route.
Yep.
And now we're giving alternatives, and that's what we should be doing.
For sure. Well, anything else you want to talk about? That was a lot of fun.
Well, I tell you, one thing if I can push, I always do foster care. We have obviously our foster care system in Fond du Lac County. I am a licensed foster home also myself and my wife.
Wow.
We go through and I push it everywhere I can because there is a shortage. And I'm very passionate about foster care because a lot of people don't understand the impact it has on these children. My son went through 5 different foster homes tossed around the system because unfortunately our system is flawed in that it favors the parents who just can't seem to get it together to get a plan. And I understand they may have issues, but the fact is it has to get back to being centered on the children because we're still finding more and more of these children who go through the system, drag through foster homes, and by the time they're actually able to have be adopted, they're already into their teens. And a lot of people don't want to adopt teenagers, unfortunately. And so those individuals are going on through being into it, then being pushed out into the system at 18, already feeling unloved, unwanted, and their alternative is they're going to turn to crime, unwed pregnancies, and other issues. And we need to get back to what the purpose is, and that's for the kids. And so my hope is that I've been talking to a few of the legislators in regard to changing the system to put timelines, for example, on when TPRs have to be submitted to the DA's office for prosecution, because we can't keep doing this system. It's a failed system right now, and we need to go through and do this. But more importantly, we need foster homes.
So if
Loving
people want
families.
to reach out or find more here and find out more here in Fond du Lac,
We have
where do they go?
our Department of Social Services has
Okay.
a foster care agent there. They contact their office. There's ways they could be a licensed foster home to take children in. Even there's the ability to become licensed just to take temporarily children. So when they have an intake, so for example, if someone has to have a child removed their home, they have to have a place temporarily to bring that child to. And you can even be a home for that, to take that child in for a short-term period until they can actually find a suitable foster home with it. But the foster care system has to change in that county governments have to stop thinking, this is us, this is what we do. There are a lot of private agencies out there, licensed foster care agencies out there. We need to partner with them because they have a lot of foster homes available that we can work together to accomplish that goal. And that's really has to be about the children. And it's very important. So anybody interested, DSS in Fond du Lac County, always reach out. They're more than happy to help you out with the process.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sure.
That is super important.
Yes, very important with it.
And thank you very much for all you do in the county. And
Well, thank you.
anytime you want to come back and say hi or anything we can do to help,
I
please,
appreciate that.
please reach out.
Yep, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are here.
Yeah.
Glad that you guys are part of Fond du Lac County here.
We're not going anywhere.
All right, excellent. That's what
All
we're
right,
here. All
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See ya.